What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be diving into the JDM EF2 in hopes of trying to button up the fuel system. Now, if you guys haven't seen the last video, be sure to go back and check it out. We did the entire brake system on the car, and I'm very stoked to have it done and out of the way because of process of elimination. I want to take care of all the brake stuff in the bay and then the fuel stuff in today's video before the engine itself goes into the car. Reason being is because all the stuff we needed to touch was on the firewall side. It was much easier for me to work directly on there rather than around like an intake manifold. So I want to try to button up the entire fuel system in today's video, although we probably can't trigger it to turn on because 1, there's no ECU in the car, 2, there's no battery, 3, obviously there's no engine. But we're going to try to find a way to trigger a standalone harness that we're going to be building for the fuel pump. We're going to find a way to try to trigger the main relay to turn on as if it's getting command from the ECU to turn on the fuel pump to make sure the wiring system is going to work before we tuck the interior back together. But let's go ahead and lay out some of the parts, show you guys what we're going to be using in today's video, and then we're just going to dive right into it. I'm not sure if I've shown you guys this in a different video, but I have just about all the fittings I need to do the fuel system using the existing hardline that's in the car. I ordered a bunch of different fittings because I wasn't entirely sure of the actual diameter of the line. So I did order some tube adapters, which are these right here and these right here, which typically is going to be the feed and then the return. From the fuel tank itself, I have some 90s right here that's going to go to the factory hardline, and then coming out of the firewall, one of these guys with a, I believe we're going to be using a straight, and then we're going to be using this tuck style filter. Now the car is all motor. This tuck style filter is going to work perfectly fine. If it's a force inducted car, probably not the best, although I've used it before and I still currently have this style in my wagon. But anyways, we have the fuel filter that's going to be going into the fuel rail, which I am actually going to be using a factory fuel rail. And when this was in my red CRX, the factory fuel rail already has a -6 fitting on there right there. I'm going to be using a factory fuel pressure regulator as well, which means it has a regular barb on it that I'm going to have to go get a hose for. And then it goes to this push lock right here, which is going to go back onto the hard line on the firewall, which returns back into the back of the fuel tank. And then I believe this one right here is going to be also a push lock style for the hard line in the back of the car to the return on the fuel tank. And that is all our fittings. I got a relay because we're going to be building a standalone harness using this relay in place of as if it was supposed to be a main relay, like a factory main relay. We're going to be building a standalone harness using the trigger from the ECU, which according to the interweb, it is pin A7, and on my phone right here on the OBD1 ECU, pin A7 is fuel pump control, green, yellow. So that's what we're going to be doing as far as the harness goes. And I do have a bunch of wires right here. So with that being said, guys, we're going to go check out what the hard line is and if we have the correct fitting so we can start flaring our lines. Well, tube adapter, you just put it on, you crank it down, and then you convert your hard line to AN. You guys probably noticed my crew neck. OGs, you guys remember my budget H22 race car build, 10.7 at 126 mile an hour. Yeah, I just made one print to kind of see how it looks. And what do you guys think? What do you guys think? So if you guys look on the firewall right here, there's 3 hardline, and this car is carbureted, so there is no fuel pump. But this one right here, I'm pretty certain feeds the fuel into the engine. I'm not entirely sure what this one does, but it also goes to the tank. The small one right here in the back is like the tank ventilation with the valve in the back, and I think it goes into the charcoal canister. So what we're going to be doing is we're not running the charcoal canister, and that means this ventilation line right here is not going to be connected at all, because in the back it's actually just open and pointed to the floor, because I'd rather have fuel smell in the rear than to have it right here in the engine bay and go inside the cabin. This bigger one right here, I believe, is 5/16. We're going to be using this one as the fuel pump feed into the engine, and then this one right here is a little bit smaller. This is like 1/4 inch or something like that, and I'm hoping that I bought the right tube adapter. We're going to be using this one for the return. Obviously this hard line right here is like super duper long, and the manifold is going to sit somewhere like right here, so we're going to be shortening it back and I think I'm going to be running a 45 off of that to kind of bring it underneath the manifold or throttle body, wherever it lands, to kind of go under and then over to the fuel rail. So I don't want to cut too far back, but I'm going to cut twice. I'm going to cut this first part off, and then I'm going to slide this all the way back to see how far we need to chop and convert this over to a -6. Home Depot rigid tube cutter. So the fitting right here, kind of gauge how far, I'm gonna gauge how far the tube goes into the fitting. That's at least 1/2 inch. And I'm gonna put the sleeve all the way back, somewhere right there, and then 1/2 inch. Okay, I'm gonna use my razor blade to kind of give it a mark. Make sure you guys measure this 1,000 times and be certain where you want to cut it, because when you take away too much, you can't get back. You know what? I need to take my own advice real quick. There's that piece. Tube sleeve. We have like almost 3/4 inch sticking out. I'm okay with a little bit of hard line showing right here in the back, but I just wanted to make sure we had enough to go into the AN. After the tube sleeve, you got to put on this little brass compression ring or ferrule, whatever you want to call it. Slip that on, and you're gonna bottom the AN out, right? And then pull the sleeve up and crank that soldier boy. I'm gonna put some pressure while turning this fitting, and you'll know when it's all converted when the AN fitting doesn't move on the tube. When you crank it down, it compresses that brass fitting to make it a nice tight seal. Ugh. You can see how the fitting is not coming off. I am going to crank it down a little bit more. Test fit with the 45. That'll work. That will work. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this other hard line for the return. Hopefully my 1/4 inch tube adapter is the right size. Oh, perfect fit. Okay, so this is a -4 to 1/4 inch tube adapter. I am using -4. This one right here, -6 to 5/16 tube adapter. Awesome. There we go, guys. We have the feed and the return line. So the engine bay side, we're done for right now, because the engine needs to be in place to know how long we need to build the return and the feed to the fuel rails. So this is done. For some reason I wasn't recording at all, but I just thought about this. I could have literally just put a hose with a hose clamp here to the return hard line to the tank, instead of converting it over to AN. I only did it in the engine bay because I wanted it to look cleaner. Back here, it wouldn't have mattered because nobody's gonna see it. I already started cutting it, so I may as well just convert it to AN. Now it's all said and done. Feed and return. Okay, so before actually putting the tank into the car, I'm gonna go ahead and just install the fuel line hose to the return, and I'm gonna build a 90 with the PTFE hose beforehand, and that way it'd be easier to kind of get our length when we put the tank up. That is about an inch into the hard line. I did buy long enough to use the rest of this for the return line from the fuel pressure regulator to the firewall. So we're gonna leave that coiled up right here. This right here is the peak of the fuel tank to the chassis. So hopefully we have enough room for the 90. I don't know, that might be a close one. This would have been a lot better if I had a 120. I'm gonna see if I can try to bend this a little bit. All right, there's our 90. I'm gonna loosely bolt it in place because it has to come back out anyways. So let's go ahead and get this tank underneath the car. Maybe a little hard to see, but the line are shorter than I had thought. So if you look right here, this is the feed line, right? And the fitting is literally here. For some reason, I thought this landed somewhere up in the front, which is why these guys are long, right? And look at the return. So here's the fitting for the return, and then here's the barb. So it's literally, I'm gonna have to just bend this over like that, and then with the fitting, that hose is gonna be like maybe 4 inches, really freaking short. And then this one right here looks like I'm gonna have to use let's see, probably a 45, right? Because it's gonna kick it up over there like that. 45. You know what, that's gonna work out perfectly fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some measurements going and build these lines, cut this one as well, and then we'll drop the tank to finalize putting this thing back up. The hose that goes to the hard line uses a pressure clamp, but I don't have a pressure clamp, so I'm gonna use a worm clamp. Now the other side is a push lock, and you don't really need a hose clamp, but the line is 5/16 and the push lock is 1/4. Now it is super snugged, but for the safety of the line popping off under pressure, I am gonna put a worm clamp on this side as well too. There we go. I built the feed line right here and brake cleaned it through to make sure there's no debris on the inside. Okay guys, so the tank is up into place. J-hooks are on right there and over there. The AN lines are tightened down the best that I could. I don't have a lot of space to put a tool back there, but I cranked it to where the fitting on the tube side was spinning a little bit. So I know it's closed gap for the most part. If it leaks, at least it's accessible right here. I know that fitting on top of the fuel pump hanger is touching the chassis because this J-hook has, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it has like a 1/4 inch gap right here because it's already bottomed out to the tub of the car. So it is what it is. I mean, the tank pretty solid still, and this car was again carbureted, so there wasn't any shield that was right here, or at least I don't think there was a shield, because if there was, it would probably be down here, but it's not. So I just went through all of my tote, my electrical box up there, and I don't have connectors, like a 2-pin connector for the fuel pump wiring, power and ground in the back of the car. So I ordered some stuff off of Amazon. It should be here tomorrow, and I think I'm gonna carry it on till tomorrow, just because one, is super dark in the car right now because the light is obviously up in the front, and two, I want to make a clean harness. So I'm just waiting for all the connectors to show up. I also bought the connector for the relay, because the relay, I was just gonna use spade terminals for right now, but I want to have an actual like plug for it, so that way the relay can come off and go back on, you know, in the same orientation. So I guess we're just gonna have to wait till tomorrow. I actually gotta close it right now too, and just kind of take a relaxed rest of the night. And I gotta sleep early too, because my mom and my niece, I gotta take them to the airport tomorrow because they're going to Korea. So gotta sleep early so I can wake up early. SFO is a pretty big airport, but man, Tampa, Florida airport, I think might be a little crazier than this one. So I got home like 2 hours ago, and initially I thought it was my mom and my niece going to Korea, but apparently my mom's friend and my brother also went as well too. So I dropped them off at SFO, and I got back, grabbed some food to go eat in my room, and I was on Netflix. War Machine just dropped, so I ended up watching that for a little bit. It's like 1:30 right now. I just opened the garage. And Amazon literally walked up like 2 minutes after. So we have our packages right here to kind of do our wiring harness for the fuel pump. So let's show you guys what's inside. Cut away from yourself, not towards yourself, because that'll be very dangerous if you did. So I bought some new lugs because the ones that I have are brass, and I wanted the silver stainless color look. So I bought these to make ground cables when time comes. And for some reason there's 2 boxes. Relay connectors. I didn't want to make, you know, spade terminal hanging loosely off the relay, so I have the female plug right here with the terminals. There's a whole pack of them right here. There's 5 total. This right here, these are rear trailing arm bushings, because on the EF2 they're original trailing arm bushings, but they're not like detached. They're not like completely disconnected. It's still attached, minor cracks, but eventually I am going to be changing them out. Hopefully I get them done before alignment. I've used these on my car many and plenty of times before in the past, no problems whatsoever, especially on my all-wheel drive CRX. Never had an issue with it. Although I want a Prothane, I do save a little bit of money buying them in red, and like I said, nobody's really gonna see it. I ordered Deutsch connectors, and they're not in here. I'm placing the relay in the center console just for ease of accessibility and not too much stuff underneath the steering column. So we're using this Dorman relay right here. It's a 4-pin connector, right? And we're gonna be wiring up the fuel pump relay as if we're putting a relay onto, like, you know, an aftermarket fuel pump, like a Walbro 450 or 525 or something bigger, like an Aeromotive, you know, A1000. You can buy the fuel pump relay harness from, you know, a reputable company or something, or in my case, we're just gonna build one because I like to build things. Usually your trigger for the relay to come on is your existing fuel pump wire that goes into slot 86. 85 is ground, 30 is power source coming in, which is 12 volt, and then 87 is gonna be to whatever you're trying to power up, either your fan, in our case, the fuel pump. Now with the relay in the center of my console, I measured to the fuse box is 2 feet and 2 feet towards the ECU, actually a little bit more just so we can have some slack. The ground is gonna be anywhere on the chassis straight to metal, so the ground wire for me is probably going to be about 1 foot because there's a bunch of 10 mil bolts underneath the center console that I can pull from, and the wire that's going to be going all the way back to the fuel pump is about 5 feet. Granted, all the curvatures and everything on the you know, center tunnel, 5 feet is going to be plenty. So with my length, we're going to pull the wires out, red for power probably for switch and also for 12 volt, and then obviously black for ground. Again, this 5-foot wire right here is for the fuel pump, and we're going to terminate this when we get the Deutsch connectors. One of these guys is going to the ECU on the harness. We are running a tuck harness, so we're going to snip the wire probably 3 inches back off the ECU plug, and we're going to tie this into that wire, which I believe, again, the slot on the ECU is A7, and I'm not going to hardwire this. I'm going to put a spade female male connector on it, just so that if the harness needs to come out for whatever reason, we can disconnect it. And then the other side right here goes, probably going to go to the fuse box to an accessory slot, where you'll get 12 volt when the key is on position. If you guys are EF owners or DAs, or even the other golden era chassis, the fuse box always has a few 12 volt direct and 12 volt key on accessory. So this one, you can run it off a wire fuse setup right here, and you can rob off a fuse from the fuse box, or again, put a female terminal on this and run the power source to the accessories on the fuse box underneath the dashboard. So what I'm gonna do right now, guys, is I'm gonna go ahead and lube this harness clean, and then we're probably gonna install this in the car as well too, so I can button up the interior. Sheesh. Alrighty, guys, so I don't know if I've shown you guys this, but I bought these loom in black and green because I was going to wire tuck the engine bay of the JDM EF2, and then I decided not to. So I built the fuel pump relay setup here, and I used the loom on that just because the car is green, right? So anyways, just to kind of recap here real quick, we have the ground for the relay, we have the wire that goes to the fuel pump, where I added the ground into it right here. There's a ring terminal for the ground, and it's tied in together right here because both of this is going to go into the lid, and then it's going to have the connector where it's going to connect to the fuel pump on the tank. And then this one right here is going to go to the ECU. It has a male, and the female side is going to be crimped onto the ECU plug for the fuel pump signal. And then this one right here with a built-in fuse is going to go to the accessory port on the fuse box to draw power. So I just want to test it out real quick. Both grounds to negative terminal, and then we have the power going over here to the red, gator to the red, and then ground is grounded right there, which has the black tape, and it should turn on the pump when I trigger the relay, which is supposed to go to the ECU. Kick it on, press the boost button, it says ready right there. Fuel pump should be like, it's like right here somewhere. So let's see if we can kick it over. Yep, the thing is working. Definitely overpowering it, shouldn't be doing that, but anyways, it's working. So I'm gonna go ahead and just route everything underneath the carpet. Code E2, gotta let it cool. the whole time I was waiting for these freaking Deutsch connectors to arrive, and I checked my mail and it said it was delivered, and I was like, what the heck? I looked at the photo and it was at the front door, which my brother took inside the house. I must have been sitting inside when they pull up, which is funny because like the Amazon trucks, or not trucks, they're EV vehicle, they don't come all the way over here. They always stop in the corner and they walk up. So I didn't hear the guy deliver it, but we have the connectors now. I've never used it before, but it uses the same crimper that I've been using, and this is a 2-pin connector, so there's 10 of them in here, 17 bucks. It's going to come in handy for when I need like plugs on the fly. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out a male and female and all the connectors and connect it to my fuel pump in the back. Grommet. Then the plug. Once the pin are locked in the picture it shows the green wedge goes into the female plug. So how does this go on? Huh. Easy enough. Locked in, orange wedge. Something like that, I suppose. Ground's on the same side. Just gonna go ahead and plug this in. All right, that is locked in.